Hello, VibeCodealicious people. We're continuing our live stream today where we are working on the Context Bonsai plugin for OpenCode. At the current phase, we are in the process of trying to reduce the number of changes to the core of OpenCode as much as possible. Over the last couple of streams, we've tried to get the plugin to patch OpenCode during runtime and have been struggling a bit with that. We're going to take that part of it, take this branch, tag it, and then revert back to before we added all of the extra stuff for trying to make this happen. We'll put that on the side table. It's looking like we probably just will need an upstream change to make that part of it work. And the part of it we're talking about is Context Bonsai alters the messages that are stored within OpenCode, and that ability to edit OpenCode's internal message store is not exposed to plugins. So it looks like if we want to be able to do that, we are going to need an upstream change, as far as I can tell for now. So we'll put that on the side. We'll focus on all of the other parts where we've changed upstream OpenCode and see what's left to pull out of the, or left to maybe modify the plugin to accommodate for the fact that we want to reduce the core OpenCode changes. And aside from that, we are using the Context Bonsai in other side projects to observe that the LLM is actually using it at appropriate times. We want to make sure that the LLM understands how to use the plugin and when an appropriate time to use it is, as well as when it's not an appropriate time to use it. And we want to make sure that when it uses it, it's giving it a correct summary. So it needs to be able to identify messages that are no longer going to be relevant for the future work that it has ahead of it. And it should be able to remove those messages and create a summary. And within that summary, if there are bits of information that were in those messages that are going to need, where that information is needed later, it should include that piece of information in the summary. For example, if it did a debugging session and it did lots of stuff, but it found, in the end, there was one particular thing that it actually needed to know, it should be able to take all of those messages, summarize them down, and especially in that summary, include whatever it is that it learned. So let's get started here. Okay, so this is the image to maze side project. Where we left on this was that we completed one method of creating a maze from an image. Now we're going to move on to another method. This new method uses the same concept that auto routing in electronic design equipment does. When you design PCBs, those are like the boards that hold computer chips that go into your computer. When you design these, there's lots of components on the PCB. They can be memory modules, flash modules, tiny CPUs, encoder, decoders, all kinds of things on a PCB. And then the little pins on those chips have to be connected to each other in certain ways. And tracing the path on the PCB to get all of the pins to connect to all of the other pins, there's already software that automates that. And I think creating mazes might be it might work similarly. There are certain techniques that the auto router does that probably apply to making mazes. So I chatted with the LLM about that initially, had it jot down that we want to do that. And now I'm about to set it off to create an actual implementation plan for creating a new method for making those mazes. So we'll let that go. And that should start reading the planning guidance document to understand how I like the plans to be made, and then it's going to go through the whole process of creating it. Here's where we're working on the main Context Bonsai plugin. So in addition to that work of trying to get it to patch OpenCode as it's running in order to supply the plugin with the functionality that it needs, we also identified a couple of bugs in the plugin that have seeped in over time. They were getting pretty annoying and interfering with our ability to use the plugin on side projects. So I noted those here in this little window yesterday. One is that when it's trying to identify which messages to prune, if it submits strings that match the messages where one of them matched only one unique message, but the other one matched multiple messages, the tool would fail and say, this particular string pattern matches 2 messages, choose a more unique string pattern. Well, the LLM would then try to call the tool again and supply the same string pattern that worked originally, and then it would update the string pattern that didn't work to try and find a more narrow string pattern. But when it does that second tool call, now the original pattern is going to match twice. It's going to match once for the original string, and then it's going to match again for the first tool call that failed. So now the original one has 2 matches. So I went in there and told the LLM to create a plan so that if there's only if there are many matches for a string, but only one of them is not a prune tool call, then that one is the correct one to use. If there's a prune tool call, or if there are several prune tool calls that also match the string, those are not counted as the matching message. So that fixed that bug. And then there's also the transition that we made where it identifies messages by strings, the search patterns, instead of by message IDs. But there were still instructions telling it to turn on message IDs and select message IDs for pruning. So we had to rip those instructions out of there. So I did both of those yesterday, and that finished. And once it finished, I went through our demonstration to make sure that everything was working as expected. So here's what I did. I'm doing this secret word protocol where I tell it I'm going to say a secret word, but don't repeat it. I told it what the secret word is. Then I asked it to prune all of the messages containing the secret word, and now it's calling Context Bonsai prune. So previously, this would go through 2 phases. It would first call Context Bonsai prune and not give it any arguments, and that would turn on message IDs so that it would see the same list of messages, but every message would be prefixed with an ID. And then it would call it again and give it the from message ID and the to message ID for the range of messages to prune away. Now it's not doing that. It only has to call Context Bonsai prune once, and instead of giving it message IDs, it's giving it the string that it wants to match for the from string and the to string. So then the tool goes and searches all of the messages for matches on that string and figures out what message IDs need to be pruned and prunes those messages away. So it did that. However, the way it pruned these messages, it leaked the secret word into the context again, because that's included here, the word corpuscle in its tool call. And the LLM is able to see its own tool calls. So while it won't see this original message that it's pruning away, it will see this tool call. So I said, I bet you still know what the secret word is. It said it does. So I said we were supposed to get rid of it by pruning, but the choice of to and from patterns leaked it out. Then I asked it to try and prune out the tool call itself. And then it did. It was able to provide matching strings that don't have the secret word, and its own summary also didn't include the secret word. So at this point, after this, there should be no message left that the LLM can actually see that has the secret word. So I asked it now if it knows the secret word, and now it says it doesn't have it in active context, so it can't recall it. Then I told it to do whatever it can to retrieve the secret word, and it uses the retrieve tool against the various messages that got archived, and then it was able to tell me the secret word. So now the plugin is back to a working state, and it's gotten rid of the old bugs that were lingering from the previous way of doing the message ID range identification. Now, now that the Context Bonsai plugin is working, we can go and actually use Context Bonsai without hitting those bugs on the side projects. That should be nice. Okay, so now we're at the part where I want to tag the current commit as failed runtime monkey packaging. Oh, sure. Use that. Okay. There we go. And now revert any changes related to the monkey patching attempts. Oh, I just realized there's a machine in this room that's making a lot of noise. I'm going to go turn that off while we wait for this thing to finish. And we're back. Nice and quiet now. Okay, it's cleaning stuff up for us. Let's move on to the next project. Right, so we're working on the Pi coding agent. We're adding VI modal editing. I had some additional features that I wanted implemented. It tried to implement them and didn't get them quite right. I gave it a list of things that were wrong. I gave it this list of things that weren't quite working right. And it went and just started making random changes without my asking it to, which was really irritating because I do have instructions that say don't just do stuff unless you're explicitly asked to, but it did it. So now we're going to test it. I think I may have already tested it, but I'm not sure if I got the latest. So let's see. One of the things to test is to make sure that the to and from are working correctly, and that's not quite working correctly. So if I, right now I'm going T semicolon to make it go to the next semicolon, but then T semicolon doesn't work again, and I think it should. Let me try it over here in real VI. T semicolon. Oh yeah, and I can use semicolons just to repeat the same T pattern. Let me see if I do T semicolon, T semicolon. Okay, that does not do that. But if I just hit semicolon, which is the vim command for repeat whatever the previous from or till command is. So till the semicolon and then repeat, repeat. That doesn't work. Let's try from the semicolon. That works. Repeating that works. Let me see. F semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. Oh, that's not from. That's find. Is it find? I don't remember. It's the one that goes all the way and highlights the actual character rather than T, which stops just before the character. So T semicolon. Yeah, and then semicolon after one of those is supposed to repeat the thing, and it's, I think, supposed to start from the, let me try this. So if I do big T semicolon, then semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. Yeah, that should do that. And let me see, the comma is the one that searches in the opposite direction. So if I do little f semicolon, it goes to the right. If I do comma, it should go to the left. So yep, semicolon right, comma left. Over here, go to little t semicolon. That goes right, comma should go left, semicolon. Oh, and then semicolon isn't working after that. Okay. So there's some bugs right there. I want to, let me just make sure I catch all of these. Little t semicolon and then semicolon semicolon should repeat finding the next semicolon. Or I might want to do it with A just to make it less confusing. T, A, repeat, repeat, repeat. Yeah. A should find the next. Go away. A. Okay. Oh, there's nothing there. And the other one was comma. So if I go TA and then comma goes backwards, but it flips back and forth. Interesting. Okay. So then that would be TA, then comma. Make sure I'm not crazy. TA, comma, 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 yeah, TA, comma, should search left repeatedly for A. And big TA, let's get away from A, big TA should search right repeatedly. Yep. And TA, let's make sure we add comma, comma, okay. And then come on, TA, comma, 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 should search right repeatedly for A. Okay, and then FA searches right, and then it should go left, 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 but it doesn't. And big FA should now go right, right, right. Okay, so same issues for F. Okay, so that's a couple of the things. Here. Yep, that's the one I identified before. What else was in the list of stuff that was implemented? Clear this out. Oh, man. I need to do this same exercise with OpenCode itself and get VI key bindings in OpenCode. Maybe I'll just go here, ls.agents plans lists. Oh, okay, epic. Okay, oh, the cursor style changes, right. I'm pretty sure that is still broken. So right now is normal mode and it's showing a block cursor. Now it's insert mode and it should switch to the caret cursor or the bar, whatever that's called. So insert mode is not switching to the bar cursor. Okay. What's another plan? Find until motions we talked about. Oh, undo. Yeah, let's see. So if I DW and then undo, looks good. What if I do it twice and then undo, undo? Hey, that looks nice. And undo, undo, undo works. Okay, great. And just make random other edits. Undo, 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 undo. Yeah, perfect, perfect. Okay. Undo works great. Count before operator. So 2DW, I think that does work. So regular DW would just go to the semicolon. 2DW goes to like one past the semicolon. So 3DW would delete all the way over to, it would delete that next ASDF. 3DW. Yeah, okay. And D3W, does that work the same? Yeah. Okay. I believe that one is working. 6, tilde case toggle. Let's see, tilde, tilde. Yes, that works perfectly. Well, it works for the uppercase and lowercase. Okay. Cursor style changes. Okay, the cursor style changes and the from till motions are the only things that are not working. Okay. Do not make any edits. I have to shout this at it because it's done the same behavior multiple times now in the same session. Oh yeah, that's all I need, just these. Copy, boom. We're planning next changes. Here are the remaining issues. Okay. Nope. Okay, stop. No, no, no. Don't flood my screen with the plan. Insert mode, right? Okay. Now I'm going to have it read that planning guidance document. So that it creates a plan the right way to fix it instead of just going and making random changes. This is going to be nice because whatever it thinks needs to be fixed, it's going to run that through an agent to do a review. And hopefully that agent will do a decent job of saying, yes, that should fix it, or no. Validating bug fix approach. Good. Okay, so this is off and running. We're going to go back to check on the image to maze. That might be to the next stopping point, and it is. Let's see. It created the plan. Key dependencies, major risks. Oh, resolved. Okay. 90-degree orthogonal lattice only, 60-degree deferred. Actually don't care yet for the 90-degree. Largest connected routable component policy. Largest connected routable component. What does largest connected routable component policy mean? Deterministic weighted prim algorithm and exact cost function, explicit router bias contract. What is a router bias contract? These are all going to be details that are part of auto routing that I just have no idea. I've never looked into how auto routing works other than the surface level details that I mentioned yesterday. Endpoint anchor mapping and distinct fallback, strict method option compatibility. Okay. So this option is only valid for this current router. Makes sense. And it thinks the plan is done, except I'm going to give it a little bit of pushback here on a certain thing, the 90-degree thing. Ooh, it's doing Context Bonsai prune. Interesting. Oh, I just realized I should have restarted this session because this is still running the old version with the buggy implementation of Context Bonsai. I think I'll let it finish the plan, but I need to remember to restart that after that. Okay, great questions. Largest connected routable component policy. After thresholding the images, some allowed pixels may form separate islands. Oh yeah, we talked about this. This policy means build connectivity over allowed cells, then keep only the biggest connected island for routing. Ah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yep. Why? Guarantees one coherent maze area instead of fragmented tiny mazes. Yep. And I actually did put more thought into this. So let me open up the Tangram house thing. So here's a maze generated on the Tangram house. If there was a window here, and then within the window there was some other shape, like a circle, then that circle would be completely disconnected from the rest of this house silhouette. And we're currently setting up these mazes so that they don't draw on any of the white part on the outside. They're only allowed to draw on the black, which means that because there's disconnected black areas, there's no way for the paths on the inside to connect to the rest of the maze. So yesterday I mentioned that it's probably either just not possible, or we have to allow it to cross through the white space if it has to go to an island. And then I started thinking, well, if there's only one route that crosses in, then you already know it's a dead end before you go that way, so it's not very useful. If we have two routes, one in and one out, then I guess you can get lost on the inside of that window, but it would kind of be a mini maze within the maze that would be less difficult. And you could just skip right over it. You already know if you're going in to the one route that goes in, you're going to have to go out the one route that goes out. I guess that's not necessarily true. You could have two routes coming in from two different ways, and they both just are their own disconnected dead ends. Okay, so there's possibilities, but what it would mean is it would have to generate a route that goes on the white section, which also would be difficult to visualize because right now the maze is these white lines. How do you represent that when it goes over the white area? You could flip it to black, but then it doesn't really look like a continuous line. It looks like two separate lines, kind of. So, yeah, I like the idea of just choosing the biggest island, and that's where the maze goes. Um, Yep. Okay, router bias contract. Contract just means the precise testable definition of the parameter valid range 0, 1, default value 0.7, the exact effect on routing cost, how it prefers darker or lighter cells, deterministic behavior at edge values. It prevents vague behavior and makes tests and fixtures stable. Okay, I'm still not quite sure what that means. How much the router prefers dark pixels when choosing routes. Okay, that's cool. That means it might be time to start playing with an image that is grayscale instead of just our plain silhouettes. Because maybe we'll get to see mazes that have sort of different levels of density. Okay, um, sounds good. Um, I'm trying to think if I would like to keep the 90-degree requirement or drop it. Let's drop it. Okay, let's let that do its thinking. Um, okay, so the Context Bonsai plugin says it's done reverting all of the commits that we made when we were trying to make the monkey patching work. So now we're ready to go chase down all of the other dependencies that we have on our own OpenCode modifications. Um, uh, Okay, so I've told it how to find our development version of OpenCode and identify which commits we've made that change it. And I asked it to look through all of the Context Bonsai plugin and figure out what changes we're still depending on. Okay, it's suggesting doing it in a couple phases. Compare OpenCode against DevBranch to enumerate all of the changes, and then map each Context Bonsai capability in the repo to the exact deltas it relies on. Great. Go. Okay. Oh, yes, allow, confirm. Okay, image to maze. How are we doing here? You didn't update the plan, guy. Update the plan and rerun validation loops. Did it actually make a physical plan? Yes, right there. Okay. And that guy's working. Okay, back to the PI, the Pi bimodal editing. So it read planning guidance and applied it. Analysis first plus subagent validation. It's still making no edits, even though now I actually wanted to. Here's the implementation. Okay. Um, Let me see what it's asking me. Single story fix pass in Vim editor implementation focused on repeat semantics and cursor style reliability. Primary files, issue 1. Yep, that's an issue. And that's an issue. Tests to add 1 ambiguity to confirm. Keep repeat history updated by operator plus find slash till 2. Keep repeat history updated. Then semicolon comma continues from that find till. I want to understand what it means there. And the number 2 is standalone only repeat history. Only direct FFTT updates repeat state. What? When you do an operator find command like df, oh, with an operator, yes. Well, let me see. Where's our little test string? So df semicolon, and then press semicolon again. Okay, yeah. Should that repeat? Should repeat work from that too? Yes, it should. I don't know if I tested the operator repeat. So DW, whoa, why didn't that? DW, what's going on? DW. Is this a problem with, let me see, DW. Okay, got it. So I'm viewing my desktop through OBS, and OBS does not show me every update, which is also why it looks strange when I'm typing. Sometimes I have to, well, sometimes it looks like it didn't take a keystroke and I repeat it, but then it shows both keystrokes. So what's happening here? Oh, now it's working. Okay, so DW, and then if I repeat it using period, that does work. Okay. And what's the other one that's like that? I don't remember. Okay. Oops. Okay, so now it's creating the plan file. Let's jump back to image to maze and updated and revalidated. Updated plan is there. Okay, just I'm taking a look to make sure that it didn't make any updates after the most recent subagent launches, and it didn't. So I trust that the plan is in good shape now. It removed the 90-degree constraint, reran validation loops, clarified several things. Missing details recheck. Okay, there's nothing left. Okay, so orchestrate. Let's see if it just does the right thing here. Planning subagent orchestration. Great. So a couple days ago, we did have an issue where I asked it to orchestrate the plan, And instead of launching a developer subagent, it decided to launch an orchestrator subagent instead of it being the orchestrator agent. But this time it's doing what I want. So that's great. That's going to go implement the first version of our um, auto routing inspired maze method. Context Bonsai plugin. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so right, I asked it to go look at all of our OpenCode changes and then look at Context Bonsai and figure out what things we're still relying on. Message level data on chat messages. That's the one that we can't solve. Well, I still have to fix OpenCode's scrolling. This is bad. Okay, message level metadata on chat messages is the one that we hunted down for a couple of days and really doesn't look like we're going to be able to do this without either shipping a modified open code or getting the modification merged upstream or writing like a launch wrapper that gets the open code binary and modifies it and then launches the modified open code binary. That's how tweakcc works for Claude. But since OpenCode is open source, you don't really have to do all of that hackery. It's just simpler to ship a modified open code if that's what you have to do. So that is likely what we will do. And I will also see if Upstream is willing to take a merge that lets us create metadata on the chat messages, on the message store. Tool context write capability. Bridged in registry. Fork change plus registry wiring. Plugin dependency prune retrieve must mutate message metadata. Impact of missing, prune retrieve, hit compatibility, failure on write path. That's the same issue, that we have to change the actual messages. What is not a hard dependency? Tool context messages formalization. Yep, that's not a hard dependency. Tool context plugin ID, also, yep, not a hard dependency. Model messages transform hook experiment. Oh, is that the... I think that's the one with messages, message IDs. Is that the message ID prefix thing? Your Bonsai feature set has two real functional fork dependencies, message metadata on message v2 messages and plugin tool write path update message support. Okay. The message ID prefix behavior is in your plugin's existing transform hook where it prepends message to text parts. The model messages transform hook experiment was a different OpenCode fork hook to transform model bound messages. Oh yeah, messages at payloads. Okay, so originally Open or Context Bonsai would take the messages that it wanted summarized and it would create its own separate LLM call to the LLM service, Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever's used, and get a summary back. Sort of like an out-of-band LLM call. Now we're not doing that. Instead, we're just having the existing LLM summarize the section itself within the same, with the whole, all the same context. And that's actually better because now the LLM doesn't have to, now the LLM has a lot more information than just the range of messages it was summarizing. Before, we took the range of messages that we're trying to prune away and we sent only that limited set of messages to get a summary. But now the LLM has the full context, including the range of messages that's being summarized. And because it has more context, it's able to have a better summary. It knows what it's going to need going forward in the rest of its work. And it can write, you know, hints to its future self about what it learned out of whatever's being pruned away. Okay. So plugin tool write path for update messages and message metadata on message v2 messages. Okay, great. Then create a plan to update a new branch that pulls the latest dev and applies only needed changes. Actually, we need two plans. Well, maybe not create a whole fresh one. Move any non-essential context bonsai features that reference old experiments or unneeded features like the what did it call out here? Plugin ID or what else? Messages formalization. Okay, so now I'm going through some cleanup where we're going to take just the necessary changes to OpenCode. We're going to sort of apply them to the latest dev branch. And in our Context Bonsai plugin, we're going to clean things up so that it only relies on the two very essential pieces of the OpenCode that we need. Okay. And I'm going to take a look at that plan to make sure that it understood what I'm trying to go for. In the meantime, image to maze is still implementing the auto router style method. And the Pi one created the plan file. No, I don't trust this because it created the plan file. Oh, it already did its loops. It just did it without actually writing the file. I'm going to go ahead and have it do the loops again. Go ahead and do the validation loops again. Because it kind of kept that whole plan in its context and it was restating it every time when it launched the subagents. Now that it has written the plan, it should be able to tell the subagents to look at that plan rather than giving it the full thing. Yeah, that's what it's doing. So now it's telling the subagents to read that file. So now there's no chance for like a transcription error. LLMs will frequently try to repeat a large thing for verbatim, but will make a few subtle changes, and those subtle changes can cause big problems. So having it have the subagents review the actual on-disk file now is a good idea. We'll see how that comes out. And now we have 3 agents cooking. So maybe we'll end the stream now because today it's snowing and I would really like to go for a walk. Yeah, let's see where this ends up, and we'll resume tomorrow, continuing each of these 3 paths. Thanks for joining me.